All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our special weather briefing for 12 p.m. Thursday, December 22nd. This will be our last briefing on this event, our live briefing, since a lot of the cold weather will continue through the weekend. We may continue with emails, but nonetheless, this will be our last live briefing. So one thing I wanted to do was point out what has changed since the briefing yesterday in the last 24 hours. First, the cold front is a little bit faster and should be in shortly after midnight in the northwest counties. Temps have trended a tad colder with the cold front coming in a little bit earlier for tomorrow, and also with min temps going into Saturday morning. Snow amounts have decreased overall, as have overall rainfall amounts when the front actually comes through. Max wind gusts, and this is going to be a bigger deal, I think, because of the cold temps in combination. We just ran through an updated forecast with our winds, and the wind gusts have increased. So nonetheless, we are expecting unseasonably cold air to overspread the area late tonight, starting at about midnight in the northwest and through the day tomorrow. One update, because the temps have trended a little bit colder, and I'll touch on this in a minute. This is the coldest air since early 2014. We did have a cold outbreak that is similar to this in January, early January of 2014, prior to the snow event in late January. And obviously with that, it rivals the coldest air mass we've seen since 2000. Let's see, strong wind gusts. We are expecting wind chill values below zero for especially the northern part of the state for a period of at least 24 hours, sometime Friday through Saturday. And once again, with the cold air, very prolonged period, 72 plus hours, in many cases of sub-freezing temperatures expected through Monday. As far as the wintry precip, it has trended a little bit down. But there still is a quick shot, mainly northwest and north Georgia late tonight into the pre-dawn hours tomorrow. And again, I'll jump into some fine tuning of that later on. With any of the rain and any of the precip that does occur, the potential for some patchy black ice does exist. So from a historical perspective on this cold air that's coming in, and these numbers are since 2000, and because we've dropped our temperatures just a tad, we reran the numbers based on 10 degrees or below, because now our forecast low for Atlanta on Saturday is now 10. But in Atlanta, the temperature has been at or below 10 degrees only 2 times since 2000, the last time being January 7th of 2014, which coincidentally is the last time we issued a wind chill warning for the metro area, at least the northern burbs anyway. Athens has only reached 10 or below one time. That was in January of 2014. Macon and Columbus, only 3 times each, at or below 12 degrees. I believe we're right around that number for both of those on Saturday morning. And in the case of Macon, all 3 times that happened to be 12 degrees or below occurred in the month of January of 2014. So obviously we're dealing with some relatively cold air historically, and just wanted to put that in perspective. So for those of you that may remember the early January 2014 cold air, we could probably expect similar impacts to what we dealt with at that time. So in terms of wind chill watch warnings, this goes into effect early Saturday. The darker or the different shade of blue across northern Georgia is wind chill warning. That extends into Tennessee, back into Alabama. We are talking about upgrading a row of counties to the south, so that would be from Floyd County eastward through Cherokee, Forsyth, Hall, potentially Banks, upgrading to a wind chill warning. And that's because with the updated increased winds and decreased temperatures, your wind chills have decreased to the threshold value of about -9, -10 Friday night into Saturday. So with that, we're internally talking about upgrading you to a wind chill warning for that, particularly during that time period. Temperatures by tomorrow morning, by Friday morning daybreak, anywhere in the middle teens in the I-20-85 corridor, single digits across the Northwest. It's going to come in pretty fast and pretty quick overnight tonight. I'll talk about that in a second with the drop, but it will fall very sharply after midnight through early tomorrow morning. Any precip that is falling or has fallen obviously could result in rapidly developing icing conditions with a temperature drop like that. Again, the caveat to that, and I've talked about this yesterday, will be how much drying occurs because of how windy it's going to be. It's going to be extremely windy, and the air is going to be extremely dry that's coming in from the northwest. So there will be a good amount of drying that occurs as a result of that. But because it is overnight, we won't have any solar to help with the drying, so it'll be solely drying based on wind. But fortunately, in our case, we're not dealing with a lot of rainfall ahead of this, so we're not expecting a widespread black ice issue, but we can't rule out there being patchy black ice as a result. South of Columbus to a Macon line, temperatures will continue to fall through the day Friday, and we are now looking at widespread subfreezing temps by about 2 p.m., and that extends all the way in the southeast. Yesterday was about 5 p.m., and because of the increased speed of the cold front, we are expecting the subfreezing temps to get through the area by early afternoon tomorrow. So the minimum wind chills, and this goes through about mid-morning tomorrow. So and it looks like it peaks between about 6 and 9 a.m. These are going to be basically your 6 to 9 a.m. wind chills. You're looking at anywhere from -4 in the I-85, I-20 corridor to -9, -10 in the wind chill warning areas across the north. So it is going to be brutally cold tomorrow, and the winds are going to be the highest during that time period. So the combination of the two is going to make it pretty dangerous outside tomorrow morning. But this is the minimum wind chill values for that time period tomorrow. And again, the coldest portion of Friday, both wind chill and temperature, will be in that 6 a.m. to noon. There will be some slight modification as we get into the afternoon, but not much in terms of wind chill overall. So just to show you the drastic temperature drop, this is again a model showing the temperature. It starts, this loop starts when it fully loads for you at around midnight, and it's about when the front is pushing into the northwest part of the state. So if you just focus, for example, these numbers are the model forecast temperature. If you just focus on, say, the metro, mid-40s, by the time we reach about 7 a.m., we're in the mid-teens. So it is a roughly 30 degree or so, 31 degree temperature drop in that 6-hour time span from about midnight to 6, 7 a.m. So obviously that poses the flash freeze potential. But again, we don't see anything this drastic this often, but I just want to point that out. From a historical perspective, these are the top 6 temperature drops that we could go back and look at going back to 1945 for Atlanta, ranging from anywhere from 32 to 38 degrees. So roughly we're forecasting about a 31 degree drop, somewhere in that vicinity. It would certainly put us into a top 10 6-hour temperature drop for Atlanta and for probably most locations that have records. We tried to pull a top 10, but there's some errors in the data that some weird temperature things that happened in the past that we aren't able to correct in the data. So I was able to at least isolate some of the ones that are more realistic, and these are the top 6. The thing that pegged to us, and this is something that it's the first time I've seen this particular one flag. For those of you that have been to our IWTs, we talk about the Winter Storm Severity Index. This page is available on our winter webpage on our site. If you just go to our winter, it's basically a scale that was created. It's in experimental mode to try and highlight different impacts associated with winter storms. Flash freeze is one of those components, and out of all of the parameters that go into the index, the flash freeze is the one that's pegging, and everywhere in orange it's pegging as a moderate impact, that would be about the middle of the scale, and it's due to the rapid temperature drop that I was just talking about. So the temperature drop will be the greatest, combined with the time period in which the temperature drop occurs and when the precip ends is what it's looking at in terms of coming up with that index. Had we been forecasting more precip, this index probably would have been a higher peg. But the fact that the precip amounts are relatively low, it's in the middle of the scale. So I just wanted to point that out. It is available on our website. So moving into the afternoon hours Friday, and I'll come back to the precip at the end here, mainly talking about temperatures now. Highs Friday, you can see here on the screen, mid-20s. That'll occur shortly after the lunch time hour. So we drop into the teens, maybe raise up to about 20, the mid-20s. Teens stay in the north, and then obviously high temps in the southeast will occur prior to the cold front passage during the early afternoon. So again, widespread subfreezing by about 2 p.m. And expect temps to fall once we get into the late afternoon hours tomorrow, and we lose any solar. Temps are going to fall pretty quickly at that point. But I do not want to move on past tomorrow without talking about the winds. We have increased the winds behind the cold front, or with and behind the cold front. So we'll start seeing the winds rolling in. Pull it up here real quick. Over the midnight time frame, let's see. Our wind gusts really start to pick up as that cold air is coming in. So after 2, 3 in the morning, from the northwest through the area, the winds really start to pick up. And by afternoon, by late morning is when we see these wind peaks. So from that 6 a.m. to noon time frame is generally these max wind gusts that you're seeing on the screen. That's generally the time frame when they're going to occur. Obviously, that makes it more of a dangerous situation, because if we do have any power disruptions with the cold temperatures and us not warming back up, that could cause some potential problems for any of the power outages that do occur. So just wanted to point that out, that winds could be a problem for us tomorrow in particular. They will be strongest tomorrow. And then as we get into Friday night and Saturday, they will relax a little bit. There will still be some winds out there. It'll be on the order of 20 to 30, not 40 to 50, going into Friday night and Saturday. So the combination of those somewhat strong winds Friday night and really cold temperatures Friday night will make for the coldest wind chills Friday night. But in terms of wind impact by itself, early Friday is the window for strongest winds. Moving into Saturday, these are the lows now for Saturday. You can see single digits getting down into the I-20 corridor, near zero in the mountains, and teens all the way down into middle Georgia. Temps could be slightly colder, give or take a degree or two. There is still some model guidance that suggests that we might get colder than this, but nonetheless, the impacts are still going to be roughly the same, given the fact that we would at this point be more than 24 hours below freezing. Minimum wind chills this period, Friday night through Saturday morning, is the coldest in terms of wind chills. And you can see the negative values here. And obviously the negative 9s, negative 10s are encroaching down on that area that I was talking about, the northern metro suburbs from Floyd County over. And so we're discussing now internally about upgrading that area to a wind chill warning because we get into that minus pretty close to or just right at -9, -10 for that region. And of course, the other areas are well within the wind chill advisory criteria of -5, especially in the 85 and 20 corridor. For those in the southeast, your minimum wind chills obviously will be on this particular time frame, Friday night, Saturday as well. You're talking from Dublin, Americus, Columbus, down to about 5 degrees or so. Saturday afternoon highs struggle to get up to mid-20s. Most of the area, we may get to freezing across the south, Columbus, Macon, Americus, Dublin. You guys right to freezing, but nonetheless, if you do hit it, it won't last for long, maybe a couple hours, 1 to 2 in the afternoon, and then go back below freezing by Saturday evening. Going into Sunday morning, this is Christmas morning, mid-teens for most of the area, single digits to 10 to 12 degrees across the north. Wind chills Sunday morning, single digits, still wind chill advisory, and wind chill advisory for most areas. So the wind chill warning probably gets converted to an advisory by Sunday for much of the area along and north of I-20. So it does obviously extend. And at this point, we're going into 48 hours of sub-freezing temps by going into Sunday. Sunday highs, see here. So anywhere along and north of I-20 generally stays at or below freezing or near for highs on Sunday, which would occur in that 1 to 3 o'clock time frame before we go back below again Sunday night into Monday morning. And then it isn't until Monday after 9, 10 a.m. that we really start to warm up above freezing. So wanted to point out the total hours below freezing. If I run the tool, and some areas go below before 7 a.m. Friday, some after, but if I just run this from 7 a.m. Friday to 7 a.m. Monday, which is a total of 72 hours or a max of 72, you can see that most areas along and north of 20 are right near that full time frame of 72 hours at or below freezing, and quite a few hours below freezing for areas even south down into middle Georgia, with Macon and Columbus only running about 6 to 9 hours of any temps above freezing, which would likely occur Sunday and or early on Friday before the cold front gets there. Since I ran it at 7 a.m., you may be above freezing from 7 a.m. until the cold front actually arrives for you. So those would be the only time frames. And then in looking at the data, and I urge you to go to our website and click on the point that you're interested in to see when you go. Put a lot of effort into the hourly temperatures going out all the way into Monday. And you can see for your location when you actually go above. Encourage you to look at that from the hourly forecast graphics on our websites. Temps along and north of I-20 expected to remain below freezing through about 10 a.m. The metro looks like it goes above about 10 a.m. on Monday, or reaches freezing 10 a.m. Monday, which would give that region roughly a 78 hour time frame of temps at or below freezing. If you go back to when it actually occurs to about 10 a.m. Monday, it's about 78 hours total. So let's talk about snow. If you remember yesterday, we did have a little bit more snow, a little bit further south. This is the official accumulation, that is. That doesn't mean it won't fall, but this is what we're expecting in terms of accumulation. You can see it's not much, 0.1 inches. So a tenth of an inch of snow, which is just above a trace to into the slightly measurable category. Some of the higher elevations and higher peaks may see a little bit more, but we are expecting some light accumulations across the north. Given the cold temps, there could be travel issues even with this amount, particularly in unprotected areas that aren't able to dry out. The area I've highlighted in red, there could be some light snow flurries or a snow shower with the front as it comes through. It would only be in about a 1 hour window when that occurs as the front's passing through, and mainly between about midnight and 4 a.m. I'm going to show you some models next that step you through. Let's go from midnight to 4 a.m. on this model. You can see the light rain and light precip that it's dropping out, very scattered. The reason for that is there's not a lot of moisture coming in the levels that are critical for both precipitation generation and snow generation. And so everything's in the very low levels. And so what falls would be very light. You can see some of the models ranging from midnight to 3 a.m. Putting down a little bit of snow and snow showers in the north. In some cases, and I'll draw on here just so you show it, just to show it. This is getting in. Change pen color. Red. Here's an example of maybe a flurry or a shower in the metro, in the northwest metro. It wouldn't be much. It would be very light, but nonetheless, I did want to show that just so you can see that if there are reports of anything, the model is indicating something might fall, but again, on the scale, it's on the very bottom of the scale from nothing to very light. So this is why we're talking about very light snow showers or very light flurry as it passes through. Show you another model. Again, both of them are in agreement that it's midnight through 4 a.m. This one is indicating more of a sleet or non-snow precipitation falling, mainly across the north, not as much further south, and mainly in the areas where we're talking about some light accumulation. So just wanted to show you that, and then even as you get past 3 a.m., most of the precip in a lot of these models, the forecast reflectivity, et cetera, dries out. So the window is about midnight to 4, and amounts are expected to be very light, if any. All right, so this graphic, which we actually sent out a couple of days ago, still applies, and the areas in blue have the greatest chance of seeing anything, and the greatest chance of seeing any type of patchy black ice due to this the temperature drop, which is also indicated by that flash freeze potential that's picked up by our winter storm index. So again, just to highlight that same area, with more confidence further north and west you go, away from the south and east side. So let's a little bit about weather safety, and today's the day to really push this. When we talk about the hypothermia, we have some of these graphics. Feel free to utilize them. You can see the web link there, weather.gov/cold. There's a bunch of different graphics. Feel free to grab them and send them out on your platforms to help people be aware. The biggest thing, and I'll talk about this on the next slide, besides the being cognizant of outdoor pets and pushing that for folks, the extended period of freezing, the winterizing of the home. Today is obviously the day to try and do that. There's a couple things here that can't be done today, like inspect your chimney or insulate your attic, but gathering supplies, insulating exposed pipes, and testing smoke alarms. I think one thing that gets underrated, especially in the event that we lose power due to the wind, there are a lot of dangers associated with indoor heaters and carbon monoxide. So want to not forget about those things and make sure you push those things out from a weather safety perspective, especially with a lot of folks gathering and families getting together at this time. So I won't go through the summary because this is a rehash of what I talked about at the beginning. I'll just leave it up there, and I will open it up for any questions.